Welcome to Zambia. Home to 15 million people, this landlocked country in South Central Africa has a musical history that's largely unknown outside its borders. I'm here to find out all I can about the music in this country. I hope you'll stay with me for this episode of Earthbeat. The world is full of people, and the one thing we have in common is music. Every culture on the planet makes music, and every country has its own dialect in the great universal language. My name is Todd Snelgrove, and I'm your host in a musical journey around the world. This is Earthbeat. I'm on my way to see James Ngoma, better known as Chamanyazi. He's a very well-connected and very well-known musician in Zambia, and he seems to be the guy to talk to find out the ins and outs of the music in this country, if we can ever get through this crazy traffic. For 2 decades, James Ngoma has been known throughout Zambia by his stage name Chamanyazi. Just a short ride past Lusaka's busy commercial district is an area called Soweto Village, where Chamanyazi runs a rehearsal space and studio. I arrived to find his band in the middle of rehearsal on a hot, sweltering day. Chamanyazi plays a style of music called kalendula, a modernized version of traditional Zambian music.
It's a blend of different types. There is what we call chintari, there's nyau, there's ngoma. So we fuse all those beats because they're kind of similar. And then we blend them up a bit with a bit of the current city vibe, which we call kalendula. Our count is not like the Western, the way you count in the West. Because most of our timing, even on it's on the kick, and the kick comes faster. We are always offbeat. So for me, I usually say it's more of it's jazz.
Stepping outside Chamanyazi's studio, it's hard to believe the paved streets of downtown Lusaka are just a dozen blocks away. Local merchants sit in the dusty streets trying to sell anything and everything to the thousands of people that stroll by. The circle of poverty is hard to break, but Chamanyazi has helped countless kids get off the streets by teaching them to play kalendula. All of Chamanyazi's band members come from right here in the streets of Soweto Market.
There are times that I concentrate more on building up new musicians to come on the music scene than my own stuff. So I don't have too much time to do my own stuff. Most of my time is spent on helping out budding musicians to get established on the music scene.
So here's a guy that spends most of his time teaching local kids how to play music. He's got 7 hit records in the country, he does international touring, he even took home this year's ZMA award for Best Kalendula Recording. It looks like I've found the right guy to show me around Zambia. It's a hot day in Lusaka with the temperature easily hitting the mid-30s. Chamanyazi's band takes a well-deserved break while I get a tour of the small rehearsal space. Over the years, the studio has hosted lots of Zambia's top musicians, either as students or mentors, but you won't find air conditioning or leather couches here. Just a few concrete rooms and some beat-up gear from South Africa. The highlight of my tour is the Great Wall of Chamanyazi.
Great and even budding musicians, whenever they come, they have to sign their signatures here so that we remember them, that they passed through this place. Like Sister D, she's one of our top female musicians. And then Sakara Brothers, yes. Sakara Brothers.
But it's time we headed outside to try and cool off a little. And no way am I going to miss the chance to learn a thing or two from this young guitar player. The lines are fairly simple and they outline just 3 chords, but the real talent here is how solid he keeps these arpeggios while the rest of the band plays polyrhythms.
And then when this song is done in the folklore format,
Yes.
this tone is usually played on the drums. So the thing we do is we have to listen to the original one and then transpose it to the guitar.
This is the drum part.
Yes. Traditionally, when it's done, there are about 6-7 drums.
Oh, okay.
So each one has got its own tone and its own sound that it's producing.
Uh-huh.
But now for us in town, we've separated the drums to one goes to the guitar, the other one the bass, the
so
drum,
you're all
and
playing drum
then we blend up and we come up with a new beat. People still sing it in the village, so we've come to know it, and so we just blended it, changed it a bit, and then hippen it up a bit to suit the current vibe of music. I believe that we've got jazz the Zambian way, and the Zambian jazz is one which has never been explored anywhere in the world. Even in our neighboring countries, they still don't know this traditional Zambian music, which is so rich in terms of scales and even the rhythm itself.
Of course, it's always good to go back to the source, so Chamanyazi promised to find a traditional ceremony that we can go to together.
During traditional ceremonies, that's when we always move back to the way things used to be done then.
I left the band to finish their rehearsal, leaving my afternoon free. On my driver's suggestion, we cruised through Lusaka looking for street musicians. This is what we found. Meet Emmanuel Muela, a 39-year-old visually impaired singer and guitar player who ekes out a living playing music in the streets of Lusaka with his partners Patrick Mumba and Stan Mwanga. The music is endlessly upbeat and features lots of blues-like call and response, but the overall feel has a distinct island flavor. While Emmanuel leads the group on probably the most beat-up guitar I've ever seen, Stan and Patrick share duties on the babatone, a homemade double bass that, appropriately enough, doubles as a bass drum. In a country where it's often hard to get your hands on a musical instrument in the first place, it's not surprising that they developed an instrument that can be played by 2 players at once. And that beat-up guitar, a broken string won't slow it down.
They play very well. So we continue. Can we continue, sir?
But as fast as Metallica's roadie, he just slapped that broken string right back on his guitar. As the afternoon waned, Emmanuel invited me back to his home, so we loaded up the car and soon found ourselves in one of Lusaka's poor neighborhoods called compounds. With a large supportive family in a tiny cramped apartment, it's no wonder that Emmanuel so eagerly peddles his homemade CD to any radio and TV station that will take it. Unfortunately, he's had no success so far, and until some sort of recognition comes, Emmanuel, Patrick, and Stan will keep hitting the sidewalks playing for pocket change. Zambia is a fascinating country full of amazing wildlife and sprawling countryside. I got my first taste of the rural landscape as Chamanyazi and I drove 100 kilometers outside of the capital in my newly rented car.
We're going to Chibombo for a ceremony called Kulamba Kubwaro. They are celebrating the harvest for this year.
There's sure to be music.
Yeah, where there's a party in Zambia, there's definitely going to be some music.
And of course Chamanyazi was right. When we arrived, we found thousands of people gathered from the surrounding villages and music was everywhere. Each of Zambia's 73 tribes hosts an annual celebration to honor their own particular history and traditions, and here in Chibombo, the Beni Makuni tribe marks their harvest festival with songs and stories about their original chief Makuni Ngoma and his journey from the Congo to Zambia more than 4 centuries ago. And of course, there's plenty of eating, drinking, and dancing. Chamanyazi and I did a walkabout and found a traditional instrument display curated by local historian Vincent Kasemba, who was happy to demonstrate a few pieces from his collection for us. So basically what we have here is a friction drum. So instead of hitting the top, you have a stick on the inside. And what he's doing is he's wetting his fingers. I'm hoping this one's easy as it looks. And you pull down. And what it's doing, as you can see, it pulls down, and it's the friction of my hand on the wood that causes the vibration.
Yeah, actually this is a piece of poetry where, like for instance, there's a situation in the village. Now you want the people to know. You pick up this drum and then playing and then telling them your issues. Sometimes it's straightforward, sometimes it's abstract, depending on the situation, because sometimes you cannot tell the chief directly. You have to use some poetry to speak.
Huh, so it's like the bell with the town crier.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not only in traditional lyrics that you'll find history and meaning in Zambian music. The ubiquitous drumming and dancing that can be found across the country is also steeped in storytelling and symbolism. Drum and dance is everywhere in Zambia, and each tribe has its own style of dance, but whether the focus is more on sweeping arm movements or impossibly gyrating hips, the dance is always embedded with some sort of cultural meaning or story. Here, a group of villagers celebrates Zambia's recent Golden Jubilee with a dance commemorating the country's struggle for independence 50 years ago.
In 1964, when the Zambians they were fighting for independence, that's why we do like this. So that's what we are saying, that we have fighted the colonialists for the Zambians. So that's why Zambians are independent.
Unwilling to let opportunity pass him by, during this presentation Chamanyazi reminds me that he's always on the lookout for his next kalendula hit.
I start now thinking of how the band can play, and then we can use this one into the modern.
Like one of the drums would be the bass, and one drum would be the keyboard, and one drum would be the guitar.
Then that talking drum is the one which is like the lead guitar.
In this dance, students at a primary school remember the time when Zambia was under control of colonial military leaders. Of course, some dances have meanings that are decidedly easier to interpret. Back at the Kalumba Kabwala ceremony, Chamanyazi is recognized constantly. We made some new friends, the guitar came out, and Chamanyazi used his musical chops to deliver a message to some local teenagers on AIDS awareness, with a little help from Bob Marley.
No, no, condom, no sex. No condom, no sex. No condom, no sex. No condom, no sex.
Eventually, the day of entertainment peaked with the Parade of Chiefs and a presentation of, you guessed it, drumming and dancing. The announcement comes over distorted loudspeakers that the festival is over. The Beni Makuni people go back to their villages while Chamanyazi and I settle in for the drive back to Lusaka. It's been a hot, dusty day, so we roll down the windows, turn on the radio, and make plans for the evening ahead. It's Friday night in Lusaka and Chamanyazi picks me up for a night out on the town. There are lots of nightclubs here in the capital city and plenty of them offer live music on weekends.
Tonight is a night full of music.
Our first stop is at Kalahari's, an open-air venue that is popular with locals and Lusaka's small expat community. We've barely arrived when Chamanyazi is called up on stage to sit in with the band. It's great to see Chamanyazi in his element. He's certainly a great performer. We were having a great time at Kalahari Lodge and I could have stayed all night, but James was excited to take me to another bar.
We're going to Paddy Blues.
Paddy Blues, to see
Amayenge.
Amayenge. I would pronounce it Amayenge.
Amayenge. This is one of Zambia's greatest kalendula bands.
Well, I leave it to you to bring me to the best bands. Having a national celebrity as a tour guide certainly comes with perks and great parking spots.
Yeah, boss. Guy, because he's known me. He says I should park that side. He was going to guard my car.
We get to travel around with the great Chamanyazi. We arrived to find the band in the middle of their set. I settle in for a beer and a bite to eat, and before you know it, Chamanyazi is on the stage once again.
Mama
performed in like
Russia.
1985 in Russia, Moscow. We toured America. 3 months we were in America, Philadelphia, Washington DC. Yeah, and then we've been to Canada, we've been to Algeria, we've been to China. This show we are doing here will be, after performing, will be paid 4,000 kwacha. So if we were to like divide that 4,000 kwacha among 20 people, you find that maybe each person is going away with something like 200 kwacha.
So now the kalendula style, James was telling me it's based on traditional music.
Sure.
So you take traditional music and then you've updated it.
Yes, we've just blended in these modern guitars. Otherwise, they used to use old guitars, which they used to call banjos. They used to make them using different strings, maybe from the bicycle and whatever. So now they brought in these modern guitars, the keyboard and whatever. So it's when it came to be at least polished.
So where did all the electric instruments come from? Where did the musicians get them?
Piano house was in Ndola. In the
Gateway.
Yes.
It was owned by a white guy, I remember. Was it Kruger?
Yeah, Kruger.
Yeah, it used to be Kruger.
Yes.
Kruger, yes.
So that's the one who started
He
using modern equipment. So that time it was the only shop where you can buy modern equipment.
I think
He was the only one.
He was the only guy that time.
96.5 Rock FM. I'm Jason Kay. You're listening to Live on Drive. Piano House actually started in 1963 selling pianos and repairing amplifiers and that. And my grandfather joined in 1979. And he came up with the idea of starting to make musical instruments, guitars and drum kits and all sorts of things like that. It was a lot harder to get the equipment in at that time. And he would buy all of the little knobs and the little switches. He would actually buy them from the States and bring them in. And then he would build the boards himself, which would then go up to because it was multi-storied. And then it would go upstairs and they would then assemble that into the guitars themselves, yeah. Michael, his name was, would come in and he would be the one that would hand make the guitars. He was a carpenter, and he would put all the guitars together, put all the drum kits, and it was just an epic space of creativity and people doing things. There was always music playing, always. It's when Piano House shut down, I think it was a tragedy.
On her way home from Patio Blues, Chamanyazi describes the difficulties musicians face now that Piano House is closed.
Like in Zambia, I think musicians that own their own equipment, we should be not more than 5. So most of the musicians, they have to hire from other people if they are to do a show. Otherwise, they are not going to work because musical instruments are so scarce in this country.
So the bands are sharing the instruments.
Most of the bands don't have their own musical instruments, and we don't have promoters, so it's a do-it-yourself kind of setup.
I even saw yesterday sometimes guitar picks are a luxury.
Yeah. Going to a shop just to buy guitar picks really is not, you're not being a good musician. A good musician must be able to use his head to create a guitar pick from whatever he's got around him. So sometimes you can get even a plastic bottle, look for a razor blade, then cut it nicely, you have your guitar pick. Sometimes you just use your SIM card, but you just know which side to use so that when you put it back in your phone it will work.
Oh, so he was using his actual, that wasn't an old SIM card, that was his actual SIM card. He's going to have to put it back in the...
Yeah.
It's just an amazing cultural difference. I've always told people it's fun to be a musician, but it's hard work. But I think I had a pretty easy ride. It's my third day in Zambia, and maneuvering the Lusaka traffic once again to meet with Chamanyazi, I find I'm starting to get used to the peculiarities of the road. Like driving on the left, circling through roundabouts, and avoiding the street vendors that crowd every intersection. One of the great things about this country is at the traffic lights, which it's good to know they call them robots. At the robots, you can buy just about anything. It's a roving, wandering shopping mall at the traffic lights, so you can buy clothes, you can buy food, you can buy telephone talk time, you can buy sunglasses, you can buy puppies, you can buy, well, just about anything. Here we're coming up to a traffic light here. Let's see what they'll have on offer for us. I do need some talk time. 10 airtime. Thanks, boss.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Just like that, you can buy puppies, you can buy toilet plungers, you can buy car supplies, you can buy anything you want. Just like that at the traffic light. Like the whole country is a drive-through shopping mall. Let me try.
Nice one. Nice one, yeah.
Continuing on, I meet with Chamanyazi and he points us towards the center of Lusaka, a dozen blocks of shops and street merchants known simply as Town. You said you've been doing this since you were 18 years old, yeah? Yeah. And your first song was a big hit.
Yeah, it turned out to be a big hit. I was in grade 12. Whenever I knock off from school, go to a club, perform, make money for myself to go back to school and pay for my school fees, and that's how I managed.
It completely changed your life.
It did a lot. Because after that, I actually even managed to pay for my school. Yes,
Everybody, everywhere we go is Chamanyazi. If you knew that you would be called after your hit song, would you still have called it Chamanyazi?
No.
Because it means, you were telling me it means shame, yeah?
It means shame. So, but I mean, it's so cool with me.
Maybe you would have called your first song Superman.
That would be too smooth. I want something rough and something which really tells a story.
And so now you're taking us to DB Studios.
Yes, DB Studios, we go see Peter.
And what's important about DB Studios?
DB Studios is like the heart of Zambian music from the past, because that's where most of the music was recorded back then.
This was the recording studio for that time?
Yes.
Our actual recording of music started in 1976. You know, we didn't have sophisticated equipment, but what we had, we made do with that. By the time the Witch and the other bands were recording in the late 70s, you know, they were still, if you listen to the instruments, they were still, you know, leaning towards the Western type of rock. You had the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Hollies, and so on. These were the famous bands in the Western world, and so that was where most of those were picking it up from and, you know, trying to put it into their own. Hence what you are calling, you know, Zamrock, which was the beginning.
Baby, come on, you know my life.
That's right. From the late 70s until the mid 80s, the predominant style of music in Zambia was a genre called Zamrock. And no Zamrock band was bigger than The Witch.
We loved rock, and the music we had was rock, but there was this African touch to it, and so it couldn't just be that rock by Jethro Tull. It couldn't.
I feel happy, I'm so happy, you've come on my way. Why did you go, and where did you go?
You went out of my way. baby, it's alright. It changed my life in the sense that I was entering the studio for the first time. I had no idea about how the studio works, no idea. It was just, but it was exciting because it made us famous, and we got to think about 300 kwacha each. As a schoolboy, I was able to buy a suit, a fridge, a bed out of that money, and it felt good. The band signed up with Teal Record Company, and they gave us a loan of 15,000 kwacha, which was paid to Piano House, and we got a gear there. We played in Malawi, we played in Zimbabwe, we played in Botswana, we played in Kenya.
Things got really good really fast for the Zamrock bands, but shortly after things started to peak, the movement quickly faded again. It was the early 80s, and AIDS played a major role in the demise of Zamrock, but so did politics.
Some people died, and the curfew set in. It was the biggest blow. We had neighbors who were fighting for political independence. Zimbabwe, Angola, Namibia, Mozambique. So sometimes Zambia was attacked by Zimbabwe especially, and South Africa. They thought we were harboring freedom fighters. So the president here, Dr. Kaunda, declared state of emergency, and we had curfew and blackout. That meant that for the musician, we couldn't play at night. So then the band settled in Botswana. Some people left the band, came back, others died, and then they came back to settle in Livingstone. And again, nothing worked until the band eventually disbanded.
When this kalendula started in the 80s, suddenly everybody, connected it to themselves. Really, because they were singing most of these traditional songs, and this beat was unique on its own. It was easy to sing along, it was danceable, and most importantly, the musicians were making money.
Has there ever been a Zambian artist that has got actually rich off of their music?
I don't know, Todd, whether we would call them rich. Many didn't have managers to show them how to handle money, how to manage their finances and so on. But most of them, I think, what brought poverty to them was basically they couldn't handle fame.
The worst one, which I remember almost every time, is when I had a funeral. Then we were going to the funeral, and I met these guys who just were celebrating when I was in grief, So, but there's nothing I could do but to smile at them and then talk to them nicely, then get back to my yeah. So it's one of those things.
And you never expected this to happen?
No.
You were hoping it would happen?
I was hoping it would happen, but now sometimes it's too much.
Leaving Chamanyazi in Lusaka, I hit the road alone for a few days to explore the country. Zambia is full of national parks with some of the best wildlife viewing in the world. You can see lions, zebra, giraffe, hippos, and lots of elephants. You can drive yourself through the parks or sign on for a guided safari. Either way, you won't be disappointed. Though the wildlife is unquestionably one of the main reasons to visit this country, you cannot visit Zambia without going to Victoria Falls.
A mile wide and a football field deep, this is the largest waterfall on the planet. While the rest of the world knows this place as Victoria Falls, the locals call it Mosi Otunya, which means the smoke that thunders. The thunder is the sound of a mile-wide river crashing 100 meters down the gorge. The smoke is the mist that rises from that collision. This is a mecca for adventure tourism. You can come here, you can do some of the best whitewater rafting in the world. There's helicopter rides, you can take a microlight over the falls. And right here is the bridge that separates Zimbabwe and Zambia. And right in the center of that bridge is one of the world's most famous bungee jumps. Home base for any trip to Victoria Falls is Livingston, just 8 kilometers away. Though only Zambia's 7th largest city, Livingston is probably its most metropolitan, with plenty of restaurants, funky hostels, and nightclubs featuring live music. In Livingston, I met with Albert Alunga, a Congolese guitarist who has been living and playing in Zambia for over 30 years. Albert is an expert in kalendula and his own Congolese rumba, so I was excited to sit down with him for an in-depth guitar lesson.
Myself, I'm 49.
Do you have children?
Yeah. I like family too much. I have 6 children and 10 grandchildren.
10 grandchildren?
Yes.
Wow. How long have you been playing guitar?
Almost 35 years.
35 years?
35 years, 35 to 6 years.
You have your own guitar?
Yes, I have my guitar.
And when did you get it?
Just 1 year now.
1 year. And before that, did you have a guitar?
No.
So you played professionally for over 30 years without even owning a guitar?
Yes.
How would you would borrow friends' guitars?
Borrow friends' guitars, just like that.
Ah.
It was good for me so that I can interact with people. Because if I was with my own guitar, I would be a selfish person. Just to be playing alone, just like that. But that made me to know a lot of people. You borrow the guitar, you borrow here, you must go to see someone to play guitar. That you learn the guitar. Guitar. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm missing the timing. It's so funny. Some of the timing is so easy and some so difficult. So syncopated. How many chords are in this song?
This song, the chords.
How many chords? 3 chords. We're playing 3 chords. There's C, G, and F. Yeah. These are the 3 chords I've been playing my whole life. Why am I finding this so difficult?
The beat.
The beat.
The problem is the beat, and the strumming and the timing.
Also. The timing is very complicated.
Very
The chords are so simple.
Simple.
And the rhythm is so difficult.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. I was playing it too hard. You have another string?
Sing? No. But you can go find it somewhere.
We'll go find one?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go find, we'll go get another string and we can continue. Okay, going to the market, find a music store. Okay.
This is a good job. Not just got fun things. So, like emergency like this one, because you must buy to Lusaka is very far. So we can just use the brake of the bicycle. We use that.
Really? So this is going to be my string?
Yes, but we will go to remove once. Your string is there. You can see?
And there's my guitar string.
Yeah.
And just like that. Of course, you'll notice it's still pretty wavy and it feels strange and it's very loose. But I gotta say, it works. Thanks for helping me get my string fixed. Okay, thanks for the guitar lesson, Albert. I would have enjoyed a few more days exploring Livingston, but I've been called back to Lusaka to meet with Kenneth Kaunda, the man who won Zambia's independence 50 years ago and served as the country's president for almost 3 decades. I've been hearing a lot about the former president on this trip and how policies he implemented helped to develop the music in this country.
During the first Republican president, because that time I think this Zambian music had that political will.
When the first president said that the radio stations should play at least, was it 90% of Zambian music, to be honest with you, we didn't have much.
That was like a trigger. Every Zambian musician wanted to be heard on radio, so they composed and things, and that was the mushrooming of bands and things.
It woke us up to coming up, at least with our own.
Still spry at the age of 90, Kaunda is more than just a promoter of the arts, he's a musician himself. 50 years ago he played this song at political rallies to unify Zambia's 73 tribes against colonial rule, and it's been an anthem in the country ever since.
We sing this song, talk about let's move together with one heart as we fight for our independence. And we're saying, because we're also fighting for Angola, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, South Africa. It was not just our independence, the independence of the whole area. That was the meaning of this fighting song.
Kaunda's policies promoting Zambian music had an enormous impact on Moses Sakala and helped shape the sound of his band, the Sakala Brothers.
Because of the deliberate policy that time, when we had one-party state, a kind of government, so every primary school had a traditional dance troupe. It was like a policy, you have to have it. So I was very happy I was part of that. So that's where we got a lot of motivation to try and stick to our roots.
Not only do the Sakala brothers stick to their roots, they adhere to a full band format in a musical environment that's leaning more and more towards DJs and rappers.
Like today, there's a music called Z-Beat, which is more like Zambian hip-hop. Or, you find that most of it is club music, it's dance music. It has created some kind of controversy, but I think I'd like to be very positive about it.
You want controversy? Z-Beat artist Rough Kid gets a lot of attention for his beats and his rhymes, but even more from pulling stunts like showing up for gigs in a coffin.
Me, I'm a rock star, man. Just me, alone. No backing vocalist, no what. I'm alone, and I still kick ass. People in Zambia, they want to pay for miming, playback, and live. They want to pay the same amount, promoters. So if they want to pay the same amount, I'll go like, why should I get a live band whereby I'll need to pay about good 6 members? This money that they're paying me, I should just go in. You know what I mean? The solo. Is what I mean. So I have to, me as a person, as an artist, I have to look at my pocket before I do that. I do everything. I do where the money is. I always pray to God that let me be the Messiah.
be a savior of this thing.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's another Pro Cruise for the big bucks.
Enough. We have 10 provinces in Zambia. We need something with a Zambian DNA, a Zambian identity. Where do we have these musicians that are going to identify our Zambian heartbeat, you know, from these 10 provinces of Zambia? As much as people appreciate the Z beat that's done well, these guys are creative enough. But I think we need to go back. We need more schools, we need more education, we need people to start training. We need those who were there before to pass on what it means. More research, you know, what is Zambian beat, Zambian instruments, traditional, so that we can marry the rural and the urban. And that's why we came up with this idea of Sakala Brothers Music School. So we opened a little school where we can have a platform, you know, for young people who want to have a chance to play, to learn. As small as it is, probably it's the only music school we have in Zambia of this kind. I think Z-Beat has done well to put Zambia somewhere, but we can do more.
My last night in Zambia, and I'm back at Kalahari's to catch the Air Power Band, one of the country's officially sanctioned military groups. Believe it or not, everyone on stage is a member of the Air Force. And if soldiers can play this well, it's further proof that Zambia's musical culture is pervasive. It's truly in their blood. And with people like Moses Sakala, Vincent Kasemba, and my new friend Chamanyazi passing their music on to the next generation, Zambia's music can only get more vibrant.
Most of the musicians here, it's an inborn thing. They're born musical. It just comes naturally like that. But we tend to enhance it by going to the college, to go and learn the chords, the notes, and so that you really understand what you are doing. And music, when you understand what you are doing, it's even sweeter.
Do you know a band called the Rolling Stones?
No.
No. No? Rolling Stones? No. Do you know a band, the Beatles?
No.
No? No? Anybody? The Beatles? No? How about Bob Marley?
Yes.
You all know Bob Marley?
Yes.